How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Phantasm from 1979, written and directed by Don Coscarelli. The movie stars A. Michael Baldwin, Bill Thornbury, Reggie Bannister, and Angus Scrimm playing the iconic villain, the Tall Man. And yeah, this really is a classic surreal horror movie. It's really cool and I definitely recommend it. Lots of stuff to talk about here. And I guess first, the surrealism. It's really cool in that regard. It's a movie that talks about death, this kid running around and uncovering the mystery of this funeral home and what's going on there. And it takes ideas like, aren't funerals kind of weird and uncomfortable? Isn't it strange that they take your loved one's body and do this processing to it? And doesn't death feel like this strange, otherworldly force that snatches up our loved ones? There's some really unnerving ideas with death that are explored really well in here. But I feel that if you made this type of movie today, it would be so serious. So many surreal films, so many art house films are so serious. And this does have the surreal elements, but it's also a really cool 80s movie. There are some EC Comics moments in here, lots of hands reaching out and grabbing you. We're blasting stuff with shotguns and making classic 80s jokes. There's a sense of life and levity here that I really do like, and it makes it a super fun movie, and it balances that surreal stuff really well. But also the iconography, the cool characters for this movie. As I said, Angus Scrimm as the Tall Man, this funeral home director that's up to something crazy. Big, tall, and intimidating. Really cool, deep voice. He's awesome, but it's not just him. I mean, he would be cool on his own, but he has dwarfs that hide in the shadows, and they have these brown hoods that inadvertently makes them look like the Jawas from Star Wars, which was a huge coincidence. But they're running around, and then he also has these sentinel spears. Another really cool, surreal element. You're running through this maze of a mausoleum, you see a floating ball. That's weird. It's dangerous when knives come out of it, though. But yeah, lots of cool, unique iconography that establishes the world of Phantasm. But also, it's a little surreal in the production as well. This was a low-budget movie, and you can really see so much of that low-budget charm on screen, and it's fun to look at and analyze and guess how they did certain shots. But also, learning about the movie's history. It took like 2 or 3 years to make this movie, and the original edit was over 3 hours long, and they had to really compress it. And in turn, some of the edit does get a little shaky, but that adds to the surrealism, which I think is really cool. When there's a moment where something doesn't quite make sense, in a movie like Phantasm, it really does work, and it really does play into it. There's almost a dreamlike atmosphere here, and it comes out super well. And I think that's a thing when you compare this with the second one. The second one had much more of a budget and was shot much cleaner, and technically it's made better. But the first one, it just came out of the fire in such a way that makes it so unique and so personal, and the flaws make it more real and contribute to the theme. I really do love this. This is the movie that put Coscarelli on the map. We would get 4 sequels to it, and then Coscarelli would do things like Bubba Hotep and John dies at the end, and it's all because of this, and I really do like it. But I guess in order to analyze it further, let me go ahead and dive in a little bit. I want to break down and analyze a few things and talk about the movie in more detail. I'll be avoiding the end bits, but I do want to do a bit of analysis, so let's dive in. In the beginning of the movie, we're at a funeral, and we get to see 2 of our main characters there, Jody and Reggie, talking about their dead friend. Everyone thinks he committed suicide. However, it turns out he was murdered by the lady in lavender, which we saw in the prologue, but none of the other characters know that. They talk about how sad it is, but they also talk about how Jodie's parents died recently and had a funeral at this very place, and their life is kind of up in the air. You see, Jodie lives with his younger brother Mike and is kind of having to raise and take care of him, but he kind of wants to go on and do his own thing and move away. But where does that leave Mike? Is he gonna drop him off with a relative or something? And in turn, Mike has kind of been following Jodie around, keeping an eye on him and trying to hang on to his brother, what little family he has left. And speaking of following Jodie around, Mike's followed him to the funeral, and he's going to be watching from a distance. We get some really cool shots of the dwarfs hiding behind the tombstones and him getting just a bit in his peripherals and kind of suspecting something's up. But then he sees the tall man all by himself pick up the casket and throw it in the back of the car. Yeah, that's way too heavy and he shouldn't be able to do that. And from there, we get him investigating the funeral parlor, sneaking in when he's not supposed to, seeing the sentinel spheres hover around the inside of this place, maybe bumping into the tall man and getting that deep, gravelly voice to scare you. There's some really cool moments. I do like kind of piecing together the clues as to what's going on. The tall man does represent death. He's kind of metaphorically a Grim Reaper, even though that's not really what he is. And I do like how there is the metaphor, but there's also what's going on in the context of the movie. And obviously, as we go through the sequels, the movie context does take precedent over the metaphor context, which you kind of have to do because you are kind of grounding things out. But boy, that movie context plot, I'm not going to spoil it, but it is thought out, and you do get little clues like, why does the tall man freeze when he walks past Reggie's ice cream truck? Yeah, we are uncovering quite the strange and wacky plot. And we even, there's a scene in the movie where the kid goes to the fortune teller and we get the box scene from Dune. And I'm like, we're well ahead of our time here. But Mike is going to be going around riding his dirt bike, investigating the funeral parlor, and trying to find some clue to prove that something's up, and then rope his brother into it. And then when you get the brother and Reggie helping out and investigating as well, they're going to constantly be saying, hey Mike, stay here, it's safe. And Mike keeps having to bust out and go and save them. And it's some cool run around, solve the mystery, figure out what's going on with this wacky funeral parlor. And we do get just such a good balance between surrealism and 80s horror. It's pretty fun. And overall, the movie does build to a bigger epic climax. I do like the scale that this movie goes on, getting bigger and bigger. And it's just one of those that everything plays out pretty fun. If you guys haven't seen Phantasm, it's one I definitely recommend. It's really cool. It's surreal, but not so artsy that it's unapproachable. And at times it can be cheesy 80s horror, but again, with the meaning. And I think this movie just has such its own unique world and its own unique dreamlike atmosphere. It's definitely a classic, definitely worth checking out. And if you haven't seen it, for real, go watch it. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. If you guys want to see more, you should be able to click right here and see more. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very soon. Relevant playlist here. Have a good day now.